You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, more specifically, Mike Tomlin's job status, job situation. As we know, the Steelers are in the midst of a full-blown meltdown. I can't remember this much, number one, this much fire around the idea that Mike Tomlin may either choose to leave or that the Steelers might choose to move on or that there may be some kind of mutual agreement to look for a trade to a different team. We also have a team that is monitoring the Steelers' situation involving Mike Tomlin, and it is a team that does make some sense in the same way that Jim Harbaugh makes a shit ton of sense for the Chicago Bears. And they're the team that is watching the Mike Tomlin situation. Now, in case you did not know, in fact, let's just start here. This is the AFC playoffs. And just a couple of weeks ago, going into that Arizona game, the Steelers were up in here, folks. That's the 5th, 6th, 7th seed in the AFC playoffs, and the Steelers were up in here. 3 consecutive losses later, the Steelers are out of the playoffs. Not only are they out of the playoffs, they're now behind the Texans and the Bills, down in the 10th spot in the playoff seeding. So it's become a disaster. Not only that, but there's all kinds of turmoil around the offense. Offensive coordinator Matt Canada obviously was the problem, so they fired him. Except their offense still sucks and still looks the same. Oh, it's Kenny Pickett's fault. Well, Kenny Pickett hadn't been playing either. It still looks the same. It still sucks. So you got to wonder what is going on. Some people are wondering, has Mike Tomlin's voice finally gotten stale? Well, here we go. This is Florio, and he asked the question, will he come back in 2024? And it's an interesting question. A large pocket of Steelers fans wanted Mike Tomlin to go for more than a few years now. After the current year ends, they might get what they want. And they still might want to be careful what they're wishing for. He's a hell of a coach. But even Andy Reid once moved on from the Eagles. It happens. Bill Belichick's about to move on from the Patriots. You know? And it also, and it'll touch on John Gruden and the Raiders. For the first time since Tomlin became coach of the team in early 2007, it feels like a divorce is coming. For the first time since early 2007, it feels like a divorce is coming. That's pretty significant. And it's not that the Steelers would fire Tomlin. If a split occurs, it will happen either because Tomlin wants out or because another team looking for a head coach, i.e. the Commanders, calls the Steelers to initiate the process for essentially pulling off a trade. Again, there's a significant part about this. Tomlin will be going into his last year on his contract next season. I'm going to tell you that's going to severely hinder the Pittsburgh Steelers in finding a good/great offensive coordinator. Because they're going to be like, why am I going in there for 1 year? I mean, unless they go in there thinking, well, maybe I'll become the head coach afterwards or can get promoted into it or get promised that going into it. Why would I go there? Because I'm a lame duck offensive coordinator. So if he does not get an extension, it's going to hurt the team even more. What would the Steelers want for Tomlin? He's under contract for 1 more year. 21 years ago, John Gruden was under contract for 1 more year with the Raiders. And the Buccaneers gave up 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, and $8 million to get Gruden. By the way, Mike Tomlin was on that staff he inherited. Yeah, and I keep bringing up the Buccaneers for Tomlin. Surely it wouldn't take as much to get Tomlin? Nowhere near. I mean, Nobody's giving up that kind of stuff for coaches anymore. And it goes on to talk about the fact that he could decide, Tomlin could make a conscious decision. I'm going to go into next year as a lame duck purposely and then become a free agent for the 2025 season. So that's a possibility. Well, we got the Chicago Bears. Apparently, this is sports mockery. I love this website. The Chicago Bears are monitoring a big coaching wild card, and you see them right there, folks. I mean, I don't think Matt Eberflus is going to survive in Chicago. The buzz around Matt Eberflus is impossible to ignore at this point. Another fourth quarter collapse. It was a bad one. I mean, they turned Joe Flacco into Joe Montana in the fourth quarter the other day. It was a historic performance, I kid you not, by the 38-year-old Browns quarterback. The best quarter by a Browns quarterback in 45 seasons. I did that video. In another fourth quarter collapse, his third in 2 months, it's getting harder and harder to defend him, Eberflus. Head coaches typically get 3 years to prove they can hack it in the NFL. However, this is a unique case for the Bears. Eberflus hasn't shown much as a head coach outside of his prowess as a defensive play caller. His situational decision-making and horrible knack to play conservatively with leads are a big reason the Bears are 5-9 instead of 7-7 or 8-6. This is why rumors persist that team president Kevin Warren, who had no say in hiring him, that's a big thing, might be looking to change. He wants to bring in some of his own people. That's you got somebody, a new team president. He didn't hire the head coach. That's a dead man walking in NFL terms, folks. Yeah, no way around it. And usually for the franchise quarterback too, Justin Fields. The obvious question is whether that includes head coach. Insiders have hinted at, but none have fully committed yet. Part of that is because Eberflus's evaluation isn't over. Another part is waiting to see how the pool of coaching candidates unfolds. A source told SM Warren wants to see if a potential big fish becomes available. One name has had his attention lately. I believe he's 51, but maybe he is 52. The 52-year-old Mike Tomlin. He's got fans inside Hallis Hall. Has coached the Steelers since 2007, leading them to 2 Super Bowls and a Lombardi in 2008. He's won 7 division titles, made the playoffs 10 times, and has never finished with a losing record. That may change this year. It sounds unbelievable that calls are growing for him to be fired. They're loud calls now. Look, you got a lot of drama. I mean, TJ Watt's nailing guys over practice. Minkah Fitzpatrick hammering guys. George Pickens is a lunatic. It's a meltdown. It's a full-blown meltdown in Pittsburgh. However, there is evidence that Steeler players have begun tuning him out. TJ Watt said, it's wild that players on that team are not listening to Mike Tomlin's message. They're making constant mental mistakes, aren't playing with the effort that has been trademark of Tomlin's run, and just lost back-to-back games against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, Patriots and Cardinals. Pittsburgh isn't known for changing head coaches, having only 3 since 1969. Still, momentum might be building for Tomlin to finally move on. Well, not only that, but, you know, we've talked about Harbaugh, and I still think Harbaugh is the lead guy in this race for Bears coach, just because of the relationship between playing there and the organization, yada, yada, yada. But nobody has said anything about the fact that if Tomlin leaves, Harbaugh, I think, becomes in play for Pittsburgh. I mean, a nationally recognized organization, got a national following, a large following, one of the biggest organizations in all of sports. Why wouldn't Harbaugh glance at the Steelers? Why wouldn't the Steelers glance at Harbaugh? You lose a big name, but you bring in a big name. Just throwing that out. I just don't think – I think Belichick's not in play there. According to a source, there are two key factors in the Bears' interest in Tomlin outside of his record. One is George McCaskey and his connection to the Steelers organization. His family has deep ties to the Rooney family, going back to when George Halas was still alive. He has great respect for them. The other is Warren. He has direct ties to Tomlin. Oh, the Bears president was in the Vikings front office in 2006, the same year the coach was their defensive coordinator. He's been a fan of Tomlin for a long time. It is far from certain that he is going anywhere. However, if the window opens and Tomlin becomes available, it sounds like the Bears are preparing to make a run at him. That is very interesting, and the fact that Warren and Tomlin were in the same place at the same time draws an obvious connection. All right, and if McCaskey and Halas has got ties to the Rooneys, there's your other connection, and that starts a relationship for a trade. Okay, and that's how that kind of thing starts and works out, and sort of how it's birthed out, for lack of a better way of putting it. That's how it's born. That's how it's born. Is those little connections like that leads, Kevin Warren, he decides to make a phone call. There's a conversation. I mean, look, you're supposed to work through agents and all that. I would be floored if I was to put money on anything. How many teams do you believe have already inquired about Tomlin? My guess is 5. 5, I believe, would have already back channels. And look, guys, those conversations start long before the season's end. Yeah, would Mike, they call an agent, they call here, they call a friend, or they call Mike himself, and Mike just doesn't tell anybody. That... I'm not going to say that makes it equally as intriguing and line to draw as Harbaugh, but it's real close. It's real, and maybe it is, actually, considering Warren may have more of a relationship with Tomlin than he does with Harbaugh. Now, the Bears organization as a whole probably has more of a relationship with Harbaugh because he played there for so long. Oh, man. Wouldn't that be wild? Tomlin to the Bears, Harbaugh to the Steelers. Belichick says, I'd like a job somewhere. Go to the Chargers. I don't know what to tell you. Tell me what you think. I'm on to L.A. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.